On a sadder note, the Department of Justice has set out, and this is not an overstatement, to destroy the lives of anyone who showed up at the Capitol to protest the 2020 election on January 6th. Not people who committed acts of violence or vandalism, people who were just there. So obviously this is political retribution. It's the kind of thing that you'd expect in a totalitarian country. DOJ has created a public January 6th registry, like a sex offender registry. No one has stopped this. And this registry includes anyone accused of any crime relating to January 6th, including misdemeanors. Brandon Straka is on that registry. He's never been convicted of a felony, but as a result of being on that registry, he can no longer live in this country like you or I can. Banks are refusing to offer him services. He's the founder of the Walk Away campaign, and he joins us tonight. Brandon, thanks so much for coming on. So we've gone through the shocking details of your case at some length, but just to bottom line it, you've never been convicted of a felony, much less any act of violence. You didn't commit any act of violence or vandalism. Tell us what this registry has done to your life.
Right, Tucker. So as you pointed out, it's not just people who have been convicted of crimes. It's anybody who's even accused of any crimes by the government. So the moment that the FBI storms into your house, puts you in handcuffs and takes you to jail, and the government creates their narrative about your case, you go onto this registry. And I think it's worth noting, too, that the government seems to be spending top dollar on search engine optimization, because for all of us, this is the top result when you Google any of our names. It's the very first result that will appear. Now, in my case, the FBI came into my house, they put me in jail, put me in handcuffs, and then told me that I was facing multiple felony charges. They charged me with 2 felonies and a misdemeanor and threatened me with a 3rd felony, which was obstruction of Congress. So I was potentially facing decades in prison for the 8 minutes that I stood outside of the Capitol filming a video on a camera. When I weighed my options, I made the decision that rather than going against this, I would plead guilty to their misdemeanor charge, their misdemeanor plea deal. In the 11th hour, in the final hearing before my sentencing, I'm going to read directly to you from the prosecution. This is from the transcript of my case. The prosecutor said just before my sentencing hearing to the judge, "Your Honor, we don't have any information that he would have been able to be charged with a felony. He didn't go inside the Capitol. We don't have any reason to have charged him with a felony. There wasn't any consideration, at least that I'm aware of, that Mr. Straka was ever able to be charged with a felony offense. Nonetheless, they did charge me with felonies. I pled guilty to a misdemeanor. And when you Google my name and you look at this dossier that the government has compiled against me and every other J6er, it includes every accusation, including those felonies that they originally charged me with and are now admitting that they never had any justification to charge me with in the first place." And to answer your question, what has this done to my life? Well, every J6er that I'm aware of has been permanently banned by PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, Patreon. People have been debanked. And just as recently as yesterday, I received a notification from a company. I'm working with a wonderful company from Delaware called Metro Payment Technologies that's actually helping people who are being deplatformed. They're a payment processing company. They're amazing. But they were trying to help me set up a new account with a banking institution. And we received a letter back yesterday on my application in which the banking institution said, "Unfortunately, we are going to have to decline based on the owner's involvement and subsequent conviction surrounding the January 6th Capitol riot." So on my Class B misdemeanor charge, more than 2 years later, I'm still being denied the access to banking institutions, payment processors. And Tucker, I'd like to point out, too, on my Class B misdemeanor charge, I spent 2.5 days in jail. I spent 3 months on house arrest. I'm on federal probation for 3 years, 60 hours of community service. I have a $5,000 fine, $500 restitution. I have paid and served every element of my sentence. I have, I believe, paid my debt to society. And yet now I'm still being punished. The punishment doesn't seem to ever end.
No. I'm rooting for the bankruptcy of any company that joins in punishing you for doing nothing wrong. Brandon Straka, thank you so much for coming on tonight.